The story of Zuko's redemption arc is one of the greatest character arcs ever written. A boy dishonored and banished by his father returns on his own terms and restores his honor. But someone or something else was redeemed alongside Zuko, and this subject isn't really talked about enough in the world of Avatar: The Last Airbender analyses, so I'm here to bring light to it. Welcome back to Shade Cinema. My name is Chris, and today we will explore Zuko's redemption arc and see not only how Zuko redeemed himself, but also something greater in the process. But to truly understand Zuko and why his redemption means so much, we must first take a look at where he grew up and the influence that his upbringing had on his character. For a long time, the world was at peace. All four nations lived together in harmony, but that peace would soon be broken. The Fire Nation was experiencing an economic boom. The firelord saw this as an opportunity to, quote, expand the Fire Nation's prosperity to the rest of the world. Avatar Roku, a lifelong friend of Sozin, objected to this idea, but once Roku was out of the picture, Sozin put his plans into motion. During a comet, also known as Sozin's Comet, where the firebenders experienced a heightened amount of power, Firelord Sozin launched an attack against the air nomads, as it was known that the next avatar would be an air nomad. The air nomads were wiped out, and this started the war that Sozin was looking for. Over the course of the war, the Fire Nation started to become a more martial society, enforcing the importance of honor, discipline, and superiority of the Fire Nation. This made the Fire Nation soldiers more and more ruthless in combat, contributing significantly to their victories. Sozin is eventually succeeded by his son Azulon, who had two sons, Iroh, the oldest son and heir to the throne, and Ozai, who was the younger son. Ozai married a woman named Ursa, and they had two children, Zuko and Azula. Zuko wasn't a very talented firebender, but he was a male, so he would have been heir had Ozai become Firelord. And then there was Azula, who was seen as a firebending prodigy. Neither really received any love from their father, so they naturally gravitated towards their mother. Ursa loved and cared a lot for Zuko, while Azula was more neglected by her mother. Zuko grew up loving his mother, and Azula grew up to be a sadistic bitch. The Fire Nation began to conquer the world and eventually reached the walls of Ba Sing Se, the Earth Kingdom capital. Iroh, who was leading the campaign, managed to reach the first wall until tragedy struck, as Iroh's son Lu Ten fell in combat. This broke Iroh's will, and the Dragon of the West retreated from Ba Sing Se. After the defeat, Ozai went to speak to Azulon about being named heir, as Iroh had no more children who would succeed him. And Azulon got really pissed. He said that Ozai should feel the pain that his brother felt and was ordered to take Zuko's life. Ozai was going to do it, but upon hearing the news, Ursa struck a deal with Ozai. She will poison Azulon, and in exchange, Ozai will spare Zuko and she will banish herself, making Ozai the Fire Lord in the process. Their plan works, and Ozai becomes Fire Lord, setting the stage for future events. With Ozai now being Fire Lord, Zuko became the Crown Prince of the Fire Nation and heir to the throne. One day, Zuko attended a War Council meeting, which was also attended by the Fire Nation's generals and the Fire Lord himself. A general suggested an operation that would distract strong Earth Kingdom units by using an inexperienced division filled with raw recruits as a decoy for their main assault. Zuko objected to this, claiming that to treat the lives of these soldiers so carelessly is dishonorable. For speaking out of place, the generals, and especially Ozai, considered Zuko's insolence as extremely disrespectful. Zuko was then challenged to an Agni Kai. Zuko got ready to face the general that he disrespected, but it turned out that he was actually challenged by Ozai, his own father. Zuko refuses to fight his father, and for that, Ozai scars the young prince with his infamous burn mark. After losing his honor and becoming disfigured, Zuko is banished from the Fire Nation. The only way he could regain his honor is by capturing the Avatar, who had been missing for a century at this point. Zuko alongside Iroh would obsessively and fruitlessly search the Avatar for 2 years until his diligence finally paid off. After 100 years of being frozen in an iceberg, Avatar Aang finally returns to the world. Zuko is determined to find and capture Aang by any means necessary to restore his honor. He cares little for anything else, and this task blinds him to anything beyond his goal of capturing the Avatar. Eventually, Grand Admiral Zhao discovers that the Avatar has returned, so he decides to capture Aang for his own glory, and to spite Zuko since the two hate each other. They even fight in an Agni Kai, where the young prince bests the Admiral, showcasing his talent in firebending. Eventually, Zhao captures Aang, but Zuko rescues him from Zhao so that Zhao doesn't get the credit for capturing the Avatar. Zuko does this by dressing up as the Blue Spirit. You see, Zuko's mission to capture the Avatar is personal, a chance for things to return to how they used to be, a chance for his father to accept him again, and Zuko will stop at nothing to achieve his goal, even if it means committing treason. Eventually, Team Avatar makes it to the Northern Water Tribe, where Aang and Katara train and master waterbending. Zhao decides to attack the city. He had discovered that the waterbenders get their power from the moon, so he sought to eliminate the Moon Spirit, who was manifested physically as one of the two fish in the sacred pond in the Northern Water Tribe's spirit oasis. Meanwhile, Aang travels to the spirit world, and his body in the physical world gets captured by Zuko after Zuko lays the smackdown on Katara. Blizzard with Aang on his back. Due to the cold, Zuko enters a cave to wait out the blizzard. Team Avatar eventually finds the two, and they quickly defeat Zuko. The team wants to leave Zuko there to die, but Aang says they should bring him back, showcasing Aang's compassion. Meanwhile, Zhao makes it to the oasis where Iroh advises Zhao not to mess with the spirits, but Zhao ignores him and kills the Moon Spirit, making the moon disappear.
Next, we are going to destroy
Iroh gets royally pissed at this and attacks Zhao and his men. Zhao then is confronted by Zuko and the two have a duel. Zuko realizes that the Fire Nation, particularly Zhao, is willing to abandon him. Although he continues to try to capture the Avatar, this sows the seed of his inner conflict. Zhao is killed by the water from Aang's Avatar state, and Zuko escapes once again. Because he failed to capture the Avatar, the firelord tasks Azula with dealing with Aang and Zuko, setting the stage for the important events of Book 2, events that cause a big change in Zuko's identity and inner conflict. Azula arrives in the Earth Kingdom to deal with the Avatar problem. She arranges a meeting with Zuko and Iroh, claiming that the firelord has changed his mind about his banishment and wishes him to return home. Zuko and Iroh make it onto her ship, where it turns out that Azula actually wanted to capture them as traitors to the Fire Nation. The pair escape and roam around the Earth Kingdom as fugitives. Zuko sees the devastating consequences of the war firsthand and hears stories of the Fire Nation's cruelty to the people of the Earth Kingdom. Even when he tried to help a kid fight off some Earth Kingdom recruiters, just because he was firebending, they immediately distrusted him and were scared of him. This profoundly affected Zuko. During these trying times, he gets closer to his uncle. Iroh becomes more and more of a mentor for Zuko, who is receptive to his advice. Iroh teaches him about finding balance and utilizing lessons and philosophies from different nations to become better rounded in thought and combat. Iroh even taught him a move that can redirect lightning, which he created, inspired by waterbenders. More importantly, Iroh questions what Zuko really wants. Zuko claims to want to return home with his honor, but does he? Or is that something that was instilled in him by his father and by the trauma of being banished from his home? At first, when Zuko is forced to live like a peasant, he despises it. He sees it as beneath him, but his uncle enjoys the humble life of making and serving tea. That positive attitude begins to rub off on Zuko, as living a peaceful life, similar to when he was a child and still had his mother, is likely what Zuko truly wanted. The truth is that Zuko wished to return home because he could possibly have the life he had before he was banished, a life of peaceful bliss. But now he got that by running a tea shop in Ba Sing Se with his uncle. Life was good. But soon reality came knocking. After Azula takes over Ba Sing Se, Zuko and Iroh get captured. Azula then gives him a choice: join his sister in defeating the Avatar, or stay with his uncle and betray the Fire Nation once and for all. Zuko, fueled by his hatred for Aang and an ever-growing desire to be accepted back home, chooses to side with Azula. This leads to Aang's supposed death and the imprisonment of Iroh. But Zuko gets precisely what he was yearning for: a hero's welcome home and acceptance by his father. But it's bittersweet for Zuko, as he had to betray his uncle to get what he wanted. His conflicting thoughts grow, eventually carrying over to Book 3, where Zuko finally begins to understand himself. Like I said before, Zuko returned home to massive fanfare. His life somewhat returns back to normal. He's accepted by his father as the one who killed the Avatar, a lie orchestrated by Azula just in case Aang was still alive. Zuko gets the royal treatment with servants bringing him whatever he wants, whenever he wants, and he's finally back with Mei, his girlfriend. Most importantly, he got his honor back. But Zuko still feels weird about everything and is very confused about his place in the world. He regularly visits Iroh in prison, trying to justify his actions, but Iroh continuously gives him the silent treatment, infuriating Zuko. This anger builds up more and more, but this anger isn't directed towards anyone besides himself. Zuko is angry because he betrayed Iroh, who is more like a father to him than Ozai. During the Black Sun invasion, Zuko confronts Ozai. He tells his father that what he did to him was cruel, and that the Fire Nation's mission of sharing its glory to the rest of the world was a lie. He expressed how the Fire Nation was feared across the world, and expressed that the world needs to return to an era of peace and kindness. That shows how much Zuko has grown over the last year of being with his uncle. Zuko also expresses his intentions of joining the Avatar in taking down the Fire Nation. Zuko even showcases one of Iroh's teachings by redirecting lightning to Ozai. Zuko then leaves to join the Avatar and to teach him how to firebend. Upon reaching Team Avatar at the Western Air Temple, they initially don't trust him, as Zuko tried to capture Aang on many occasions, but over time, Zuko earns their trust, and he becomes a full-fledged member of the team. Zuko and Aang begin their training, but Zuko's firebending is very weak. To find answers as to why Zuko's bending was weak, the duo head out to the ancient Sun Warrior civilization, where they meet the Sun Warriors, who introduce them to the Masters, Ran and Shaw. The two Masters turn out to be dragons who were considered extinct. The Masters judged them and showed them true firebending. The Masters showed them that firebending wasn't about destruction, fueled by anger and aggression, but about balance, energy, life, and creation. By learning the true nature of firebending, Zuko has a much deeper understanding of his bending and his purpose. Through this renewed purpose, Zuko goes out of his way to save Sokka's father and Suki from a Fire Nation prison, something that is unthinkable when you look back at Zuko from Book 1. But Sozin's comet was approaching again. The team had to make a plan to repel the Fire Lord's invasion. They meet up with the White Lotus, an order comprising of some of the most powerful benders from all over the world. A high-ranking individual in this group was Iroh, who had escaped imprisonment. Zuko confronts Iroh and apologizes to his uncle for everything he has done. Iroh simply embraces Zuko, claiming that he was never angry at Zuko, but sad that he lost his way. Zuko had found his way again, and the two made amends. When the comet arrives, Zuko heads out to the Fire Nation alongside Katara, where he confronts an ever-maddening Azula one last time. The two fight in an Agni Kai, where Zuko displays his development. Although he's bending fire, Zuko bends as though he's bending the other elements, meaning he took to heart Iroh's teachings in Book 2. Here are some examples. He bests Azula for the most part during this fight, but it isn't over yet. As Azula gets ready to shoot lightning at Zuko, Azula aims for Katara, and Zuko takes the hit for Katara, someone he tried to kill before, showcasing his selflessness. Katara defeats Azula and proceeds to heal Zuko. At the same time, Aang defeats Ozai and takes away his bending. With Azula now imprisoned, Zuko becomes the new firelord, ends the war, and vows to rebuild a new world of peace and kindness for all. Now let's look at the secret arc you probably overlooked throughout the show. On the surface, Zuko's arc is really just about Zuko, but that isn't the case. If you look a bit deeper into the series and into this video, you see that Zuko's redemption arc would also be a redemption arc for the Fire Nation. Just like his honor as firelord, Zuko aims to restore the Fire Nation's honor and standing in the world, from an aggressive martial nation to one of peace and order. After 100 years, the scars of war are real, especially in the Earth Kingdom's western part filled with Fire Nation colonies. But with a long-lasting peace, friendship, and time, those wounds can be healed, and all nations can live and prosper together. Under Zuko's reign, the Fire Nation began its own redemption arc, and once again became a beloved and respected nation around the world, despite some early hiccups. The end of one story is the start of another, and in this story, Zuko didn't just redeem himself and restore his own honor, but he would end up redeeming the Fire Nation and restore its honor once more. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. Only about 4% of you guys are subscribed, so please subscribe to the channel if you would like to see more. Comment below your thoughts, questions, and concerns, as I read and reply to every comment. Anyway, have a good rest of your day. Take care.